September 12th, 2024, Knoxville, Tennessee. The kind of Tuesday morning that starts ordinary and ends up changing everything. Harper Elizabeth Reed stood at the corner of Birch Street and Hamilton Avenue at exactly 7:32 in the morning, her navy blue backpack sitting square between her shoulder blades the way her mama had shown her. 6 years old, almost seven, the kind of kid who made lists in her head and checked them off as she went. Lunchbox check, library book about dolphins check, phone charge to 47%, which wasn't great but would have to do because she'd forgotten to plug it in last night after reading 3 extra chapters under the covers with her flashlight. The September air still held that last gasp of summer heat, the kind that would burn off by noon and leave everything smelling like cut grass and car exhaust. Harper's mama, Kate Preston Reed, had already left for work. First period planning time at Oakwood Elementary meant Kate was out the door by 6:45 most mornings, which meant Harper got herself ready, locked the front door, checked it twice, and walked the 4 blocks to the bus stop on her own. She'd been doing it since school started 3 weeks ago. Kate didn't love it. Harper knew that, but they were a team of two and teams divided up responsibilities. That's what Mama said. Harper's responsibility was getting herself to the bus stop. Kate's responsibility was everything else. Harper stood with her weight on one foot, then the other, watching the corner where the number 14 bus would appear. She had her route memorized. The bus took 15 minutes to get from the depot to her stop. It was never early, and it was rarely more than 3 minutes late, which Harper appreciated. She liked things that were predictable. That's when she noticed the man. He was standing across the street near the entrance to Patterson's Hardware, which didn't open until 9. He wore a gray jacket even though it wasn't cold yet, and a baseball cap pulled low enough that Harper couldn't see much of his face. His hands were in his pockets. He wasn't moving. He wasn't looking at his phone. He was just standing there. Harper had been taught about stranger danger since she was 4 years old. Kate was a teacher. Kate knew statistics. Kate had made Harper memorize their address, Kate's cell phone number, and the number for 911 before Harper even started kindergarten. But Kate had also taught Harper something more useful than fear. She taught her to observe. Most people, Kate said, move through the world like they're half asleep. They look without seeing. They hear without listening. But Harper, Kate said, had always been different. Even as a toddler, she'd watch people with this intense focus, like she was cataloging every detail for future reference. So Harper observed the man across the street. He wasn't looking at the hardware store. His weight was distributed evenly on both feet, which meant he wasn't tired or waiting casually. People who are casually waiting shift their weight. They check their phones. They look around. This man was looking in one direction. Toward the bus stop, toward Harper. Harper felt something cold move through her stomach, but she didn't look away. Looking away meant she'd lose track of him. Instead, she shifted her backpack straps and turned slightly, just enough to see him in her peripheral vision while appearing to watch for the bus. The man didn't move. Harper counted to 60 in her head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. It was a trick Kate had taught her for when she felt scared or overwhelmed. Counting gave your brain something to do besides panic. At 47 Mississippi, the bus rounded the corner. Harper felt relief flood through her chest. The doors opened with their familiar hydraulic hiss. She climbed the 3 steps, showed her bus pass to Mrs. Kowalski, the driver, and found her usual seat, 4th row back, right side window seat. As the bus pulled away, Harper looked out the window. The man in the gray jacket was gone. Harper told herself she'd imagined it. Told herself he was just someone waiting for the hardware store to open, even though that didn't make sense because it wouldn't open for another hour and a half. Told herself that people stand around all the time for all sorts of reasons that have nothing to do with 6-year-old girls waiting for school buses. But Harper didn't quite believe herself. The school day passed the way school days do when you're 6.5 and smart enough that class moves a little too slowly for you. Harper's teacher, Mrs. Brennan, taught 2nd grade the way someone might teach a cooking class to people who'd rather be doing something else. Enthusiastic, patient, slightly exhausted. 3rd period was science, Harper's favorite. They were doing presentations on marine mammals. Harper had chosen orcas, which everyone called killer whales, but which were actually the largest members of the dolphin family. Harper had spent 2 weeks researching reading 3 books from the library and watching 7 documentaries with her mama. She stood at the front of the classroom with her poster board, which she'd covered in images of orcas breaching hunting, swimming in pods. Orcas can see in the dark, Harper told the class. Not with their eyes, with sound. It's called echolocation. They send out clicks that bounce off objects and come back to them, and their brains build a picture of everything around them. They can tell the difference between a salmon and a seal from the sound alone. They can find food in complete darkness. They're basically using sound like we use flashlights. Her best friend Mia Sutton raised her hand. That's so cool. Can I come to the library with you after school? I want to see the books. Harper felt the cold thing in her stomach return. Not today. My mama said to come straight home after school. That was a lie. Kate hadn't said that. But Harper suddenly didn't want Mia walking with them. Didn't want to put Mia in a position where there might be a man in a gray jacket standing across from the library watching. Mrs. Brennan clapped. Excellent work, Harper. A+. You can add that to your research folder. Harper returned to her seat, but the pride she should have felt got swallowed by the image of the man at the bus stop. The way he'd stood, the way he hadn't moved, the way he'd watched. At lunch, Harper sat with Mia and 3 other girls from their class. They talked about the science fair coming up in October, about who had the best swing technique at recess, about whether Mrs. Brennan's coffee mug that said, "I teach what's your superpower," was funny or just sad. Harper ate her peanut butter sandwich and tried to participate, but her mind kept drifting back to the man. She checked her backpack 3 times to make sure her phone was still there. 47% battery. She should have charged it last night. At recess, Harper was climbing the monkey bars when she saw him again. He was outside the fence about 30 yards away, standing near the row of parked cars that belonged to teachers. The chain-link fence that surrounded the playground was 8 feet tall and topped with angled bars. No one could get in without going through the main office. But he was there. Gray jacket, baseball cap, hands in pockets, watching. Harper froze on the monkey bars, her hands locked around the cold metal. Her heart started doing this thing where it felt too big for her chest, like it was trying to escape through her ribs. She wanted to look away, wanted to pretend she hadn't seen him, but her eyes wouldn't cooperate. The man shifted his weight slightly. Not away, just adjusting his stance like someone settling in for a wait. "Harper, you okay?" Mia called from below. "You're supposed to keep moving or get down." Harper forced herself to swing to the next bar, then the next, then drop to the ground. Her legs felt weird, shaky, like they weren't quite connected to the rest of her. "I'm fine," she said, "just tired." She didn't look back at the fence, didn't want to know if the man was still there. Instead, she walked to the far side of the playground, near the slide where the angle of the building would block her view of the parking area. She stayed there until the bell rang. The rest of the school day moved like cold honey, slow, thick, heavy. Harper sat through math and social studies, then the last 15 minutes of reading time where everyone was supposed to sit quietly with their library books. Harper stared at the same page of her dolphin book for 10 minutes without processing a single word. The bell rang at 3:15. Harper walked to her locker, got her backpack checked that her phone was still in the side pocket. 34% battery. She should have charged it. Why hadn't she charged it? The dismissal process at Oakwood Elementary was organized chaos. Kids poured out 3 exits. Bus riders went left. Parent pickup went right. Walkers went straight through the main doors. Harper was a walker, 4 blocks to the public library where she'd wait in the children's section doing homework until Kate got off work at 4:30 and picked her up. Harper pushed through the main doors and stopped on the top step. The man in the gray jacket was standing at the corner of Birch and 4th, 2 blocks from the school gate. Harper felt everything inside her go cold and sharp and hyper-aware. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't someone who happened to be in the same place twice. This was intentional. This was targeted. This was about her. Harper's brain did what her brain always did when presented with a problem. It started calculating. She was 4 blocks from the library. The man was 2 blocks away, positioned between her and her destination. If she walked the normal route, she'd have to pass within 15 feet of him. She could go back inside the school, find a teacher, explain. But explain what exactly? That a man had been standing across from the bus stop that morning and then near the playground and now at the corner 2 blocks from school. She hadn't seen him do anything. He hadn't approached her, hadn't spoken to her, hadn't even looked directly at her as far as she could prove. Adults always wanted proof. They wanted logic. They wanted something concrete before they'd act. Harper had observation. She had instinct. She had the cold, certain knowledge that this man was following her. But she couldn't prove it. She took a breath, made a decision. She would walk, but she would test him. Harper descended the school steps and turned right instead of left, taking the long route that would add 2 blocks to her walk, but would let her see if the man adjusted his position. She walked past the row of parked cars where parents waited in the pickup line, walked past the crossing guard who was helping kindergartners across the street, walked with her head up and her pace steady, everything in her screaming to run, but knowing that running meant showing fear, and showing fear meant giving power to whoever wanted to scare her. Block 1. Harper could feel eyes on her back. She didn't turn around. Instead, she watched reflections. Car windows, store windows, the glass door of the coffee shop on the corner. And there in the reflection of the bank's front window, she saw him. Gray jacket, baseball cap, walking the same direction she was walking, staying exactly 1 block behind. Block 2. Harper's hands started shaking. She shoved them in her pocket so no one would see. Her phone was in her right pocket. She could call Kate, but Kate was in a staff meeting until 3:45 and wouldn't answer. She could call 911. But what would she say? A man is walking down the same street I'm walking down. They'd tell her to go to a public place, find an adult. She was trying to do exactly that. She was trying to get to the library. But the library was still 2 blocks away, and the man was getting closer. Block 3. This was Main Street now. More people. Harper felt a flash of relief. Mama's rule number 1, if you're scared, find a crowd. But the crowd wasn't helping. Everyone was busy, checking phones, talking to each other, walking with purpose and toward their own destinations. No one was looking at the 6-year-old girl with a navy backpack whose hands were shaking so hard she had to keep them pressed against her sides to keep them steady. No one was looking at the man in the gray jacket who had closed the distance from 1 block to half a block. Harper tried to make eye contact with a woman coming out of the pharmacy. The woman smiled vaguely and kept walking. Tried to catch the eye of an older man sitting on a bench outside the post office. He was reading a newspaper and didn't look up. Find a crowd only worked if someone in the crowd actually saw you. Block 4. Harper was on Commerce Road now. The library was 1 block ahead on the left. But so was the man. She could hear footsteps behind her, steady and unhurried. Not running, not trying to catch up, just maintaining distance. Predator distance. The word came to Harper from one of her nature documentaries. Predators didn't chase prey immediately. They followed. They waited for the right moment. They let the prey exhaust itself with fear. Harper's phone buzzed in her pocket. She grabbed it, heart leaping. Text from Kate. Meeting running late, sweetie. I'll be there by 5 o'clock. Love you. Harper stared at the message. 5 o'clock. It was 3:20 now. That was an hour and 40 minutes from now. Her battery was at 18%. She tried calling anyway, straight to voicemail. Kate always turned her phone off during meetings. Harper hung up without leaving a message. Her hands were shaking worse now. The footsteps behind her stopped. Harper stopped too, her heart hammering. She pretended to tie her shoe even though her shoes were slip-on Converse that didn't have laces. She just needed a reason to stop. Needed to see what the man would do. Through the gap between her arm and her body, Harper could see him in her peripheral vision. He'd stopped too, was looking in the window of a shop that sold furniture. Not really looking, just pretending. This was the test. Harper had learned about the scientific method in school last year. You made a hypothesis. You tested it. You observed the results. Hypothesis, this man is following me specifically. Test, do something no one would normally do. See if he mirrors it. Harper stood up, looked both ways. The crosswalk light was red. She wasn't supposed to cross, but she stepped off the curb anyway, eh, walking to the middle of the street like she was going to cross. Then she stopped, stood there in the middle of the road, counted to 5. Cars were coming, but they were far enough away. She had time. Behind her in her peripheral vision, Harper saw the man step off the curb too. He stopped in the middle of the street, just like her. Harper's hypothesis was confirmed. She ran back to the sidewalk before the cars got too close. The man did the same. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't someone who happened to be going the same direction. This was someone hunting her. Harper's brain switched from observation mode to survival mode. The library was 1 block ahead, but there was something else half a block away on the right side of the street. Miller's Diner. Harper had walked past it 100 times. It was old. The kind of place that had been on this corner since before her mama was born, with a sun-faded sign and windows that ran floor to ceiling, so you could see everyone inside from the sidewalk. The sign in the window said, "Everyone welcome," since 1987. Everyone welcome. Harper made a decision in the space between one heartbeat and the next. She walked faster. Not running. Running would make him run too. But faster. Purposeful. Block 5. Her heart was so loud in her ears she could barely hear anything else. Her backpack felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Her breath was coming too fast. She needed to slow down. Needed to stay calm. 1 Mississippi, 2. Mississippi, 3. Mississippi. The diner was 30 feet away. 20 feet. Footsteps behind her, closer now. Maybe 10 feet back. Harper reached the door. It was heavy solid wood with a brass handle. She grabbed it with both hands and pulled. The door swung open. A bell above it rang bright and cheerful. Harper stepped inside. The diner smelled like coffee and bacon grease and something baking that might have been apple pie. The floor was black and white checkered tile. The counter ran along the left side with red vinyl stools bolted to the floor. Booths lined the right side and the back wall. Harper's brain cataloged everything in 3 seconds. Booth in the far corner, couple in their 40s arguing in low voices about something. The woman had her arms crossed. The man kept trying to reach for her hand. She kept pulling away. Booth by the window, 2 elderly women sharing a piece of pie, talking about someone's grandchildren. Counter middle section, teenage girl in a waitress uniform, refilling ketchup bottles, looking bored. Counter far end, one man. He was huge. That was Harper's first thought. 6'3", at least, maybe taller. Broad shoulders under a leather vest covered in patches Harper couldn't read from this distance. Arms like he'd spent his whole life doing some kind of heavy labor. A beard that had gone gray in patches and dark eyes that flicked up from his coffee mug when the bell rang. He looked like every warning Harper had ever been given about dangerous strangers. Tattoos, leather, motorcycle patches. The kind of man parents tell their children to stay away from. But Harper had 3 seconds to make a choice. 3 seconds to assess who in this diner might protect a 6-year-old girl being followed by a predator. The arguing couple, too absorbed in their own problems. The elderly women, too fragile, couldn't defend her if it came to that. The teenage waitress, too young, might panic. The man at the counter alone, which meant Harper wouldn't be putting anyone else in danger. Large enough that he could physically stop someone if needed. And something about the way he sat back to the wool eyes on the door, scanning the room like he was always assessing threats. He looked dangerous, but dangerous to bad people was different from dangerous to scared little girls. Harper's mama had taught her to trust her instincts, said that humans had spent millions of years learning to read body language to sense safety and threat on a level deeper than conscious thought. Harper's instincts that this man was the only person in this diner who would understand. She walked toward him. Her legs were shaking so badly she wasn't sure they'd carry her the 20 feet from the door to the counter. Her heart was beating so loud she was certain everyone could hear it. Her hands were ice cold. She reached the man's stool. He was looking at his coffee mug, nodded her, giving her space to make a choice. Harper didn't have time for choices. She wrapped both arms around his left leg and held on like she was drowning, and he was the only solid thing in an ocean. The entire diner went silent. Harper pressed her face against the leather of his vest. It smelled like oil and coffee and something else. Something that reminded her of her grandfather before he died, leather and Old Spice and safety. "Don't let go of me, please," Harper whispered into the leather. "Don't let go." She wasn't crying. She was past crying. Crying was what you did when you were sad. This was terror pure and simple, and terror didn't leave room for tears. Terror left room for nothing but holding on. The man went very still, the kind of still that Harper recognized from nature documentaries when an animal freezes trying to assess whether something is a threat or prey or something else entirely. Then she felt his hand enormous and rough and covered in scars she couldn't see but could feel through his skin rest on top of her head, not pressing down, not restraining, just resting there, steady. "Hey," he said. His voice was low and rough like gravel being poured down a drain pipe. He cleared his throat. "Hey, easy." Harper didn't let go. If anything, she held tighter. The man shifted on his stool. Harper felt him turn slightly, angling his body toward her without looming over her. "You okay?" he asked. Harper couldn't answer. Her throat had closed up. "What's your name?" Harper forced the word out. It came out smaller than she intended. "Harper." The man nodded like that was the most important piece of information he had ever received. "That's a good name. I'm Cole." Harper registered the name. Cole. It fit him somehow. Solid, simple. The kind of name that didn't need anything added to it. "Harper," he said, keeping his voice low and even. "Can you look at me for a second?" Harper didn't want to look up. Looking up meant seeing his face, and his face might not match the steadiness of his voice. And if it didn't match, she didn't know what she'd do. But something in his voice said it was important. She tilted her head back. Cole was looking down at her with dark brown eyes that had seen things Harper couldn't imagine. His face was weathered and scarred in small ways, a life written in healed cuts and sun damage and hard years. But his eyes were focused on her with an intensity that made her feel like nothing else in the world existed except this moment. "Did somebody scare you?" he asked. Harper's chin trembled. She nodded once, sharp and small. "Okay," Cole said, "okay." He glanced toward the door. Casual, unhurried. The kind of look that wouldn't register to anyone watching as anything other than a man glancing around. But Harper saw his eyes working, saw him take inventory. She followed his gaze. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Miller's Diner, parked half in the shadow of the awning from the barbershop next door, stood a man in a gray jacket, Vincent Howell. He was standing very still. The kind of still that people stand when they're trying not to draw attention to themselves. His hands were in his pockets, his weight was on one foot, and his eyes were fixed on the front door of the diner. Harper felt Cole's hand pressed down slightly on her head, just enough to tell her he'd seen. He knew. "How long has he been following you?" Cole asked quietly. Harper blinked. Her mouth fell open. She hadn't said she was being followed, hadn't said anything about a man. Cole's eyes flicked to her face, then back to the window. "From school," Harper found her voice. It came out barely above a whisper. 6 blocks. I kept trying to walk faster, and he kept getting closer, and I didn't know where to go, and I saw the diner, and I just—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "I didn't know who else," she finished. Cole was quiet for a moment. Then he said very simply, "You picked right." He reached out and put one hand on top of her head again, not pressing down, just resting there, steady. Harper looked at that hand, enormous, scarred, covered in ink she couldn't make out from this angle. The hand of someone who'd spent a lifetime doing hard things. Then she looked up at his face. Something changed in her eyes. The terror didn't leave. It was still there, sharp and immediate, but something else moved it in beside it. Relief, recognition, the understanding that she'd made the right choice. Cole turned his head slightly toward the counter. "Ruth," he said quietly. The waitress, a woman in her late 50s with reading glasses, pushed up into her graying hair and a no-nonsense set to her jaw, stepped closer without being asked twice. She'd been at Miller's for 30 years. She'd seen things. She read this situation in about 2 seconds flat. "What do you need?" she asked, matching his low voice. "You got a phone back there?" "Of course I do." "Call the sheriff's office, non-emergency line. Tell them I need a deputy at Miller's Diner. Don't make it a show. Don't announce it." Ruth's eyes flicked to the window. Back to Cole. Back to Harper. "On it," she said, and she was gone. Cole turned back to Harper. "You want to sit up here?" he asked, patting the stool next to his. Harper hesitated. Her arms were still around his leg. "You can see the whole diner from up there," Cole added, "in the door." That did it. Harper climbed up onto the stool. It was too tall for her. Her feet didn't touch the floor. She sat with her back straight and her backpack in her lap, clutching the straps, and positioned herself so she was pressed against Cole's left arm. Not clinging, but close. Cole picked up his coffee mug and took a sip like nothing in the world was happening. "You want a hot chocolate?" he asked. Harper looked at him. "Is it the kind with the little marshmallows?" "I have no idea," Cole said, "but we're about to find out." Something moved across Harper's face. Not quite a smile, but close enough that Cole felt it like a small victory. He raised 2 fingers toward the counter. Ruth, even from across the room, caught it and turned to the machine without a word. For 3 minutes, Cole and Harper sat at the counter. He didn't talk. She didn't talk. He watched the napkin dispenser. The chrome surface of it caught the light from the window at an angle, and in that reflection, warped and imperfect as a funhouse mirror, Cole could make out the shape of the man outside. Still there, still watching. Harper's hands tightened on her backpack straps. "He's still out there," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yep," Cole said. "Are you scared?" Cole thought about that. Actually thought about it, not just performing the answer. "No," he said finally. "I am." "That's smart," Cole said. "Fear is smart. Fear keeps you moving." He glanced at her. "You moved, didn't you? 6 blocks. You didn't freeze. You kept walking until you found somewhere safe." Harper chewed the inside of her cheek. "My mom always says if I'm scared, find a crowd." "Your mama's right," Cole said. "That's good advice." But there wasn't really a crowd, just you. Cole almost smiled. "Fair point. I take up a lot of room." This time the ghost of a smile on Harper's face got a little more solid. Ruth set a mug of hot chocolate in front of Harper. It had marshmallows. Harper looked at them, then looked at Cole. He gave a small nod. She wrapped both hands around the mug and brought it close. The diner had resumed a version of normal. People were talking again. Carefully, quietly. Not looking directly at Cole and Harper. The couple in the corner booth had stopped arguing. One of the elderly women by the window had taken out her phone, though whether she was texting someone or just needed something to look at, Cole couldn't tell. Cole set his jaw. The man outside hadn't moved. Cole had spent 30 years developing what his old sergeant used to call the radar. It wasn't mystical, it was pattern recognition. It was the accumulation of 1,000 situations where something was off, and the people who listened to that feeling came home, and the people who didn't sometimes didn't. Cole's radar had been screaming for the past 4 minutes. This man wasn't curious. He wasn't lost. He wasn't someone who happened to be standing outside a diner. He was waiting. Harper, Cole said, keeping his voice conversational. Easy. The way you talk when you don't want the thing you're talking about to feel dangerous. This man outside, do you know him from anywhere? Harper took a sip of hot chocolate, thought about it. I don't think so, she said carefully. But this morning when I was waiting for the bus, I thought I saw him across the street. I didn't think anything of it then. And after school, I was walking to the library and I saw him again, and I thought maybe it was a coincidence. She paused. And then he started walking faster when I did, and I knew it wasn't. How did you decide to come in here? The sign, Harper said. The one in the window. Everyone welcome. She looked at the mug in her hands, and the door was heavy enough that maybe he wouldn't follow me inside. Cole processed that. 6 years old, and she'd assessed the structural integrity of the door as a barrier. What made you come to me specifically, he asked. Harper considered the question with the seriousness of a scientist evaluating data. You look like you weren't afraid of anything, she said finally. And you were by yourself. I didn't want to bring trouble to anybody who already had a family with them. Cole stared at her for a long moment. This 6-year-old girl had just said something that cut through everything and hit him directly in the center of his chest. She hadn't chosen him because he was big. Hadn't chosen him because he looked safe. She'd chosen him because she was trying to protect everyone else. Your mama raised you, he asked. Just her, Harper said. My dad died when I was 2. Car accident. It's okay, though. Mama says we're a complete team. She's right, Cole said. His voice was rougher than he meant it to be. The bell above the door rang. Every muscle in Cole's body went to immediate alert. His hand moved without thought to the edge of the counter, gripping it. He did not turn around. He watched the napkin dispenser. In the warped chrome surface, he saw a shape enter. Not gray jacket, blue uniform. Deputy Owen Lancaster, Knox County Sheriff's Office. 32 years old. Lean. Sharp eyes that took in a room the way Cole did, quickly and efficiently, cataloging everything without appearing to. Owen stopped at the counter. He looked at Cole. He looked at Harper. He looked at the hot chocolate. Hey, Cole, he said, casual as Sunday morning. Owen, Cole said. Owen glanced toward the window, looked back at Cole. The entire exchange took less than 3 seconds, and no words were required. Owen straightened up. Miss, he said to Harper, his voice friendly and unhurried, you happen to be the daughter of Kate Preston Reed, who works over at Oakwood Elementary. Harper's face lit up with recognition, so sudden it was almost painful. That's my mama. You know my mama. I do, Owen said. She called the office about 20 minutes ago. Said you didn't check in at the library like you usually do. She's on her way here right now. Harper made a sound small and involuntary, like all the air going out of something that had been held very tightly. She pressed the side of her face against Cole's arm. Cole sat very still and let her. Owen, meanwhile, had turned and was walking with that same unhurried stride toward the door. His hand was not on his belt. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were doing things the rest of him wasn't announcing. He pushed through the door. The bell rang again. Through the window, Cole watched. Owen approached the man in the gray jacket, said something. The man's hands came out of his pockets slowly. Owen's posture changed the moment they were outside. The casual friendliness disappeared, replaced by something more authoritative. Another patrol car turned onto the street, no lights, no sirens, just arriving. Inside the diner, Harper pressed harder against Cole's arm. Cole put his hand on top of her head again. It's okay, he said quietly. He's not coming near you. He meant it. He meant it the way he'd meant very few things in his life. Not as a promise made lightly, not as comfort offered reflexively. As a fact, the most certain thing he'd said in a very long time. Outside, Owen was talking into his radio. The second deputy, a woman Cole recognized but didn't know by name, was standing with the man in the gray jacket. The man's posture had changed, defensive, caught. Inside, Ruth came over and refilled Cole's coffee without being asked. She looked at Harper. Honey, she said, you want a piece of pie while you wait for your mama? Harper looked up at Cole like she needed permission. Up to you, he said. Apple, Harper said to Ruth. Nissan. Apple it is, Ruth said. Her voice had gone soft in a way that Cole suspected she didn't let it go very often. Harper sat at the counter and ate her pie. Cole sat beside her and drank his coffee. They didn't talk for a few minutes, just existing in the same space. The fear in Harper hadn't left entirely. It was still there in the set of her shoulders and the way she kept her back straight and her eyes moving. But something else was there too, something steadier. Outside, Cole could see Owen talking on his radio. The man in the gray jacket was in the back of the patrol car now, hands behind his back. Cole turned his mug in his hands, thought about the expression on Harper's face when she'd first looked up at him, the way she'd made a calculation with her 6-year-old brain and arrived at an answer that most adults would never have reached. Thought about what she'd said. You look like you weren't afraid of anything. Thought about all the years he'd spent making sure he looked exactly like that, and what it had cost him, and how he'd never once considered that it might someday be useful to someone small and frightened on a Tuesday afternoon. Cole, Harper said, yeah. Are you going to be here when my mama comes? He looked at her. You want me to be? She considered it very seriously. Yes, because I'm going to have to explain and she's going to be scared and maybe cry. And I don't want to cry too because one of us has to be the calm one. Cole looked at this child for a long moment. I'll be here, he said. Harper nodded, picked up her fork, took another bite of pie. Cole? Yeah. Do you have kids? The question landed like a stone, dropped into still water. Cole was quiet for a beat longer than usual. No, he said. Oh. Harper turned the fork over in her fingers. You'd be good at it. Cole said nothing. He looked at his coffee. Outside, the red and blue lights of a third patrol car turned onto the street. And somewhere 4 blocks away, a woman named Kate Preston Reed was driving as fast as she legally could, her hands white on the steering wheel, and her heart in her throat to get to her daughter. And at the counter of Miller's Diner, a man who'd spent 17 years building walls around himself and a little girl with a navy backpack sat side by side, and neither of them was alone. The bell above the door didn't ring so much as explode with sound. Kate Preston Reed came through that door like a woman who'd been holding her breath for 6 blocks and had finally been allowed to exhale. She wasn't what Cole had expected. He hadn't built a picture of her in his mind exactly, but if he had, it wouldn't have been this. A woman who was small the same way Harper was small, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had come half undone, wearing a lanyard with a school ID still around her neck, one button of her cardigan fastened wrong, eyes red at the edges but dry. She'd cried already, in the car, alone. She'd made herself stop before she walked in. Cole recognized that too. Kate's eyes found Harper before the door had fully closed behind her. Harper slid off the stool. They met in the middle of the diner floor. Kate dropped to her knees right there on the black and white tile. Harper folded into her. The sound Kate made when her arms closed around her daughter was not a word. It was something below words, something that lived in a part of the human body that language hadn't reached yet. Cole looked at his coffee mug. He gave them 30 seconds, counted them privately the way he used to count before breaching a door. Not because he was impatient, because some moments are too private to witness head on, and the kindest thing you can do is look somewhere else and let them have it. When he looked up, Kate was on her feet, one hand cupping the back of Harper's head, the other gripping her daughter's shoulder like she intended never to let go again. She was looking at Cole. You, she said, her voice was unsteady. You were the one who... She came to me, Cole said. I just didn't move. Kate stared at him for a moment. Then she crossed the diner floor in 4 steps. Before Cole could register what was happening, she'd grabbed his right hand in both of hers and was holding it the way people hold things they're terrified of losing. Thank you, she said. The words came out fractured like she'd had to break them apart to get them through. Thank you. Cole looked at their hands. his enormous calloused ink covered, hers small trembling with a chip in the nail polish on her left thumb. He didn't pull away. She did the hard part, he said. She kept walking. She didn't freeze. Kate pressed her lips together, nodded, looked back at Harper, who was standing very close to her mother's side, watching Cole with those enormous dark eyes. You told him about the dolphins, Harper said seriously. Kate blinked. What? Cole knows orcas are actually dolphins. He saw them in Alaska. Something crossed Kate's face that was not quite a laugh and not quite a sob. She pressed a hand over her mouth for a moment. Then she looked at Cole. She talked to you. About dolphins and her project and the marshmallows. Cole paused. Ate half a piece of pie, too. My pie, Kate said faintly. Apple, Ruth called from behind the counter. On the house. Kate looked around the diner like she was noticing it for the first time. The quiet people, the refill coffee mugs. Ruth already moving with the natural efficiency of someone who'd managed 100 difficult situations and would manage 100 more. I need to understand what happened, Kate said. The door opened again. Deputy Owen Lancaster came in removing his hat. He stopped when he saw Kate. Ms. Reed, and he said, I'm glad you made it. I'm going to need to ask Harper a few questions. Nothing scary, just want to understand what she saw. Is that okay? Kate looked at Harper. Baby, is that okay? Harper had pressed herself back against Cole's arm. She looked at Owen. Is he still outside? She asked. He's in the back of my car, Owen said. He's not going anywhere. A silence, then Harper lifted her chin about half an inch. Okay, she said. Owen pulled a notepad from his shirt pocket. Cole started to shift off the stool to give them room, but Harper's hand shot out and grabbed 2 fingers of his left hand before he'd moved 3 inches. She didn't say anything, just held on. Cole settled back onto the stool. Owen looked at Cole, then at Harper, then he almost smiled, just at the edges before he got it under control. He clicked his pen. Harper, he said, can you tell me when you first noticed the man? This morning, Harper said, at the bus stop. He was across the street. Owen's pen stopped moving on the notepad. His head came up. This morning? I thought he was waiting for someone, Harper said. People wait across from the bus stop sometimes. For the number 14 bus. It goes downtown. She said it matter-of-factly, like she'd taken careful note of this and filed it away. But the 14 didn't come and he didn't leave. Owen wrote something. Kate had gone very still. And after school, Owen prompted, he was at the corner of Birch and 4th. That's 2 blocks from the school gate. Harper's voice was level, precise. He started walking when I started walking. Cole felt something move through him at the sound of it. Not pity, something more complicated than pity. I counted, Harper added. You counted, Owen repeated. To make sure, Harper said simply. I stopped at the crosswalk light even though it was already green. He stopped too. That's when I knew. Owen set his notepad down on the counter. He looked at Cole. She's 6, he said quietly. 7 in November, Harper said. 7 in November, Owen repeated even quieter. He picked his notepad back up. Harper, do you know this man? Have you ever seen him before today? Harper thought about it. Cole could feel the thinking the way she went somewhere inside herself and came back slowly. I don't think I knew him, she said. But he knew me. The diner went quiet again. What makes you say that? Owen asked. Because he never looked at anyone else, Harper said. On the whole street, there were other kids from school going home. He never looked at any of them. Just me. Owen exhaled through his nose. He closed the notepad. Okay, he said. I'm going to step back outside and make a few calls. Ms. Reed, I'll need to speak with you after. He looked at Cole. You staying a while? Long as I need to, Cole said. Owen nodded once and pushed back out the door. The 3 of them, Cole, Kate, Harper, sat in a kind of compressed silence. The kind that comes after adrenaline starts to drain and the body begins to understand what it actually went through. Kate kept her hand on Harper's back. Slow circles, automatic. Harper had turned back toward the counter and was picking at the last bit of pie crust. Harper, Kate said softly, why didn't you call me? Harper looked at her plate. My phone died at lunch. Okay. Kate closed her eyes for exactly 2 seconds. Okay, tomorrow we get you a portable charger, non-negotiable. The pink one, whatever color you want. Cole watches this exchange and understood without being told that this was how this family operated. Crisis acknowledged. Solution assigned. Love embedded in the practicality of it. He recognized it. His own mother had been built the same way. He hadn't thought about his mother in a while. That caught him off guard. You okay? Kate asked him. Cole looked at her. Ma'am, you've been staring at the counter for about 30 seconds, she said. Not unkindly. I asked if you were okay. I'm fine, he said. You don't have to say that, Kate said. He looked at her, she looked back. There was something in her face. Not pity, which he couldn't have stood, but a kind of frank, clear recognition. Like she saw the same thing in him that Harper had seen, and neither of them thought it needed explaining. I was thinking about my mother, Cole said, which was more than he'd meant to say. Kate nodded like that was a perfectly complete sentence. Is she still? No, he said. 12 years ago. I'm sorry. She would have liked Harper, Cole said, then stopped slightly surprised at himself. Kate looked at her daughter who had finished the pie crust and was now making a quiet and totally focused effort to arrange the remaining marshmallows in her mug into what appeared to be a pattern. Everyone likes Harper, Kate said softly. She just walks into a room and something in it changes. A pause. I never know if that's a gift or something I should be afraid for her about. Cole said nothing for a moment. Both, he finally said. Probably, Kate said. Yeah. The door opened. Not Owen this time. A sergeant. Older. Heavier through the shoulders. Stripes on his sleeve. He exchanged a word with Ruth, who pointed toward Cole. The sergeant walked over. Mr. Thatcher, he said. I'm Sergeant Dillard. You mind coming outside with me for a minute? Need to get your statement. Cole looked at Harper. She'd gone still again. That quick locking down of everything. I'll be right outside the window, Cole told her. You can see me the whole time. Harper looked at the window, then at him. Then she picked up her hot chocolate mug. Okay, she said, and then very quietly, Cole. Yeah, don't go too far. He looked at her for a long moment. I won't, he said. He followed Dillard outside. The late afternoon air had gone cooler while he'd been inside. That particular September drop that happens fast and all at once. The kind of air that smells like the end of summer and the beginning of something else. Cole could see Owen's patrol car parked at an angle. In the back of it, through the window, the shape of a man in a gray jacket. Head down. You the one who called it in, Dillard asked. Had Ruth call, the waitress. Little girl came in, attached herself to your leg. She was shaking. You looked out, saw him standing on the sidewalk watching the door. He'd been following her. How long were you watching him before he came in? 12, maybe 14 minutes. He say anything to you? Didn't address me. Ordered coffee. Dillard made a note. You recognize him? No. Never seen him before at the diner on the road. Cole looked at Dillard. I said no. Dillard held his gaze for a beat, then nodded. He was the kind of man who tested people to see how they came back. Cole had come back even. That was the right answer. He's got ID on him, Dillard said. We're running it now, he paused. I'll tell you something, Mr. Thatcher. Off the record. Cole waited. We've had 2 other reports in the past 3 weeks, Dillard said. Different schools, different neighborhoods. Girls the same age, man matching his description. He kept his voice flat, professional. We didn't have enough to move on him. Didn't have a face to put to it. Locations were inconsistent. Witnesses weren't solid. He paused. Today's different. Today we've got a positive ID, a victim who is remarkably, and I mean remarkably precise in her recollection, and a credible witness who was physically present. He looked at Cole. You and that little girl just handed us something we've been trying to build for 3 weeks. Cole said nothing. He stood very still. You want to tell me you're not shaken by that, Dillard said. Because I am. And I've been doing this 22 years. Cole looked at the patrol car, at the shape in the back of it. He made himself look, because it mattered to look, to see this thing clearly and completely and not look away from it. Those other girls, Cole said, they okay? As far as we know, Dillard said, he never got to any of them. They ran. They got inside. They told adults. He paused. Harper was the first one in who had the presence of mind to specifically choose where she ran and who she ran to. The others just scattered. He almost shook his head. 6 years old. 7 in November, Cole said. Dillard looked at him. What? 7 in November. She's 6 now. Dillard was quiet for a moment. Right, he said. He clicked his pen. I'm going to need your full contact information, and I may be in touch again as this moves forward. Fine, Cole said. Mr. Thatcher. Cole was already turning back toward the diner. Dillard's voice stopped him. What you did in there? Keeping her calm, keeping him unaware, not tipping your hand. Most civilians lose their heads in that situation. Most people either freeze or escalate. He paused. You didn't. Cole said nothing. Military oil. Army, 2 tours. Dillard nodded slowly. Thank you for your service, he said. It came out without the hollow ring that phrase sometimes carried. It came out like he meant it. Cole went back inside. Harper saw him through the window the moment he reached for the door handle. Her face went through 3 things in quick succession. Relief, the attempt to hide the relief, and then giving up on hiding it. He was back. The math worked out. Cole sat down on the stool beside her. What did he say? Harper asked. Grown-up stuff, Cole said. Nothing you need to worry about tonight. I'm going to worry about it anyway, she said. I know, Cole said. That's okay. You can worry about it and it can be okay at the same time. Harper turned her mug in her hands. He did it before, she said. Didn't he, the man, to other kids? Cole looked at her. He took his time deciding what to do with that question. He didn't believe in lying to children. He never had. He'd had adults lie to him when he was young to protect him, and it had taught him nothing useful and left him unprepared for things he should have been prepared for. Where'd that come from? He asked. The way the deputy looked when he came back in, Harper said. He looked too relieved, like he'd been worried about this for a while. Cole was quiet for 3 full seconds. You read people very well, he said finally. Is that a yes? That's a yes, Cole said. But none of those kids got hurt, and you're not going to either. Harper absorbed that, sat with it. Good, she said, quiet, solid, one word that carried the weight of everything behind it. Kate had been on the phone at the window. Cole could see her profile, the tense line of her shoulders gradually letting down as whoever she was talking to said whatever they were saying. When she came back to the counter, she looked wrung out. The way people look when they've been carrying something very heavy and have finally put it down, but their body hasn't quite gotten the news yet. My sister, she said, she's coming to stay with us tonight. Good, Cole said. Kate turned her keys in her hand. Cole noticed she did that when she was deciding something. Harper asked me something last night, Kate said. Cole waited. She asked if you were going to be around for a long time. Cole felt something in his chest tighten, the good kind of tighten, the kind that means something matters. What did you tell her? I told her I didn't know, Kate said. She stopped, pressed her lips together, and she said, I think he will be. He said Tuesday, and he meant it. Cole looked at the parking lot, at nothing in particular. Did she get that right? Kate asked. Her voice was quiet and direct and completely without drama, which was he'd learned in the past 2 hours exactly how she asked the things that mattered most. He turned and looked at her. At this woman with the cardigan button wrong and the firm handshake and the absolute unbreakable devotion to a team of two that had, over the past 2 hours, quietly and without announcement made room for one more. She got it right, Cole said. Kate held his gaze, nodded once. Good, she said. And there it was, that one word again, solid, final. The word both of them had learned from a 6-year-old who understood with the uncomplicated clarity of someone not yet old enough to doubt themselves that some things are simply true and do not require more than one syllable to confirm. Kate looked at Harper. We should get you home, Bug. Harper slid off the stool. She stood in front of Cole. He was enormous, and she was very small, and she looked up at him the way you look at something you want to memorize. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around his waist. All the way this time, not just the leg, and pressed her face against his ribs. Cole stood very still for exactly 1 second. Then he put both hands on her back. Careful, steady, the way you hold something that matters. Tuesday, Harper said into his ribs. Tuesday, Cole said. She let go, took her mother's hand. They walked toward the door and Harper turned at the last second, just once, just to check. Cole was still standing there, still watching. Harper nodded, like something had been confirmed to her satisfaction. The door closed. Cole stood there for a moment in the middle of all that noise and warmth and the smell of coffee and pie. Ruth came over and refilled his mug without a word. He sat back down on his stool, put his hands around the mug. He sat there for a long time, and somewhere in the back of his chest, in the place that had cracked open, when he'd first looked into those enormous frightened eyes, something was still breaking. Not painfully, not in the way that breaking usually worked for him, more the way ice breaks in spring. Inevitable, necessary. Something beneath it finally getting air. He didn't have a name for it yet. He just sat with it. When Ruth finally looked at him from across the counter and said, "You doing okay, Cole?" He looked up at her and said, "Yeah." And for the first time in 17 years, he wasn't entirely sure he was lying. Cole Thatcher did not sleep well that Tuesday night. That wasn't unusual. He hadn't slept well since Fallujah, and that was 17 years ago. The insomnia was just furniture by now, just part of the room he lived in. But that night was different in a specific way. It wasn't the old things keeping him awake. Wasn't the sounds that lived in the walls of his memory, the ones that came when the house got quiet and his guard came down. It was something else, something smaller, something with dark brown eyes and a navy backpack and a very serious opinion about orcas. He lay on his back in the dark and stared at the ceiling and heard over and over 2 words spoken into the fabric of his ribs by a 6-year-old who had no business trusting him as thoroughly as she had. Tuesday, she'd said it like it was a contract, like it was sealed. He'd said it back. Hadn't thought about it. It had come out of him the way the truth does when you're not fast enough to stop it. Cole got up at 4:30 and made coffee and sat at the kitchen table and didn't look at his phone. The chapter had texted. Brick asking about the Thursday run. Donnie sending something that was probably a joke based on the number of laughing emojis. He didn't answer any of it. He just sat with his coffee and his ceiling and the weight of a day that had been ordinary until it wasn't. By Wednesday morning, Cole had decided with the particular firmness of a man talking himself into something that he was not going to think about it anymore. The situation had been handled. The man was in custody. The girl was home. He had done what any decent person would have done. End of story. By Wednesday afternoon, he'd checked the local news 3 times for any mention of an arrest. There was nothing. Not yet. He called Owen's direct line at 4 o'clock. Felt slightly ridiculous doing it. Called anyway. "Thatcher," Owen said, picking up on the second ring. "ID come back on the gray jacket." A pause on the line. Owen was deciding something. "You didn't hear this from me." "Never do." "Name's Vincent Howell, 44, priors in Georgia, 2 counts of unlawful surveillance. 1 disorderly conduct charge that got pled down from something worse." Owen's voice was flat, professional, holding itself together. He's been in Knoxville 14 months. Another pause. Had photos on his phone. Cole's hand tightened on the phone. Of kids. Different kids, different locations, all within 3 miles of the school district. Owen's voice was still flat, but something underneath it was struggling. Harper's not in any of them. But 3 of the other girls we'd had reports about, they're in there. Cole said nothing for a long moment. Cole, I'm here. You did good yesterday. She did good. Without that, without a positive ID and a solid witness and a victim who could articulate a timeline, Owen stopped, started again. DA's office is talking to us today. They think they've got enough to charge. Good, Cole said. One word. Flat. The same way Harper had said it. How's the kid? Owen asked. I don't know, Cole said. She went home. But you're going to find out, Owen said. It wasn't a question. He said it the way someone says something they have already understood about a person. Cole didn't confirm or deny it. Thanks for the update, Marcus. Cole, one more thing. Another pause. The department is going to issue a statement tomorrow. Press release. It'll mention that a bystander intervened and made the apprehension possible. They won't name you at standard protocol, but people talk. Knoxville's not that big. Owen paused again. The chapter might hear about it before you tell them. Just thought you should know. Cole looked at his kitchen wall, thought about Brick and Donnie and the sick other guys who made up the core of the Knoxville chapter. Thought about how that conversation would go. Appreciate the heads up, he said. He hung up. He sat with it for about 4 minutes, then he called Brick. Thomas Brick Sullivan was 53, built like a refrigerator, and had a voice like gravel being poured down a drain pipe. He was also, despite all appearances and the frankly alarming collection of traffic citations to his name, one of the most perceptive people Cole had ever met. He'd been president of the Knoxville chapter for 11 years. He'd seen Cole at his worst and his best and everything in between, and had never once treated those things as different from each other. You're calling me, Brick said when he picked up, on a Wednesday, without me calling you first. What happened? Cole told him. All of it, flat and factual the way he'd given Dillard his statement, except he didn't leave out the part about the way Harper had looked up at him, or the things she'd said, or the 2 words she'd pressed into his ribs before she left. Brick didn't interrupt once. That was unusual. Brick always interrupted. When Cole finished, there was a silence that lasted about 6 seconds. On the other end, Cole heard the distinct sound of Brick setting down what was probably a beer. The little girl, Brick said. Yeah. She just walked up to you. Yeah. Another pause. Cole. Of all people, brother. His voice had gone somewhere different and lower. The gravel was still there, but the tone behind it had shifted. You know what it means that she came to you right out of everybody in that diner, and she came to you. She said I looked like I wasn't afraid of anything, Cole said. That's not why, Brick said. Cole said nothing. If it was about looking fearless, she'd have frozen. Fearless looks dangerous to a scared kid. It looks like another thing to be afraid of. Brick picked up his beer. She came to you because something in her read something in you that felt safe. And Cole, brother, that doesn't just happen. That's not random. Cole stared at his kitchen wall for a long time. Brick, I'm not saying you're going soft on me. I'm stating a fact. A pause. The press release, Owen told me. When it gets out, and it will get out, there are going to be people who have a problem with it, with us being involved. I know, Cole said. And there are going to be people who don't, Brick said. And I'll tell you which one of those groups I care about. He paused. 0. I care about 0 of them. We do what's right. The rest is noise. A beat. You going back Tuesday? Cole didn't answer right away. Cole. She said Tuesday, he said finally. A long pause, then Brick laughed. Not a big laugh, a quiet one. The kind that meant something had surprised him in a direction he hadn't expected. A 6-year-old girl made a standing appointment with Cole Thatcher, he said. That's the most interesting thing I've heard in a decade. Don't make it a thing, Cole said. It's already a thing, Brick said. It became a thing when she grabbed your leg, brother. You're just the last one to know it. Cole ended the call. He sat in his kitchen. His coffee had gone cold. He didn't reheat it. The week moved the way weeks do when you're waiting for something. Slowly at first, and then in a sudden rush, like the days had been stacking against each other, and then all fell at once. Thursday, he ran with Donnie out to Maryville and back. Friday, he did the maintenance on his Harley that he'd been putting off for 3 weeks. Saturday, he ate at the chapter house, talked about the Thursday run, listened to Brick Hole Court about the fundraiser for the veterans shelter that the chapter had been doing quietly for the past 2 years, without announcement, without press, because that was how Brick believed things like that should be done. Cole listened and ate his food and felt the normalcy of it like a bandage over something that was still tender underneath. Sunday, the press release came out. By Sunday evening, his phone had received 11 texts, 4 calls, and 2 voicemails, one of which was a reporter from a local station who had somehow gotten his number. Cole neither knew nor liked that. He didn't answer any of them. He deleted the voicemail. He took his bike out at 8 in the evening and rode until the city fell away behind him, and it was just the road in the dark and the sound of the engine. He thought very clearly, and for the first time, that he was not the same person who had pulled into Miller's Diner the previous Tuesday afternoon. He couldn't have told you exactly what was different. He just knew that something had rearranged itself in a way that didn't rearrange back. Monday passed. Tuesday morning came. Cole was at the diner at 12:15, earlier than usual. He didn't examine why. Ruth raised an eyebrow at him when he came in. Early, she said. Don't start, he said. Wasn't going to say a word, she said, already pouring his coffee. He'd been there for 40 minutes when the bell above the door rang. Cole didn't look up. He heard the footsteps. Light, quick, too determined to be random, and then a small body climbed onto the stool beside him with the considerable effort and total dignity of someone who refuses to ask for help, and a Navy backpack landed on the counter with a thump. The Dolphin Project got an A+, Harper announced. Cole looked at her. She was wearing a yellow shirt, and her ponytail had given up on itself again, and she had a small bruise on her left knee from something she'd probably already forgotten. She looked like a completely normal child. She looked, Cole thought, like she'd slept. Extra credit? He asked. Obviously, she said. I included the Orca section. Obviously, Ruth materialized. Hot chocolate? Harper looked at Cole. Can I get a coffee? No, Cole and Ruth said together. Harper sighed with the theatrical weight of someone who has suffered greatly. Hot chocolate, she said. Marshmallows, Ruth confirmed, already moving. For a moment, they just sat there. The diner moved around them. A table of older men near the window were doing what older men in diners do, talking about things that had already happened and things they suspected were going to happen, and occasionally laughing very loudly about both. The cook was having a one-sided argument with the dishwasher about something neither of them seemed very invested in. Everything was ordinary. Everything was exactly what it had been last Tuesday before the bell above the door rang the first time. And it was also completely different. My mama's outside, Harper said. She's parking. Okay, Cole said. She wasn't going to come in. She said she didn't want it to make it weird. Harper turned her mug in both hands, the one Ruth had just set down. But I said that was already weird because she was just going to sit outside in the car, and that's weirder. Cole almost smiled. Did she decide to come in too? She's still deciding, Harper said. She was on the 3rd floor of the parking decision when I walked away. 3rd floor. That's what we call it when she gets stuck thinking about something, Harper said. She'll get to the ground floor eventually. Cole thought of Barcy's. You two talk about a lot of things. We talk about everything, Harper said simply. We're a complete team, remember. The bell above the door rang. Kate Preston Reed came in with the particular posture of someone who has made a decision and committed to it and is now slightly nervous about having committed to it. She was wearing a green jacket that was the same shade as Harper's backpack, and her hair was down, and she was carrying 2 cups of takeout coffee from somewhere else. She looked at those cups when she came through the door and then seemed to realize it was a strange thing to bring into a diner. She looked at Cole. He looked at the takeout cups. She looked at the takeout cups. I wasn't going to come in, she said. I know, Cole said. Harper made a compelling argument. She usually does. Kate came to the counter. She set one of the takeout cups in front of him. It's from the place on Fifth, she said. I didn't know how you take it. I guessed black. You guessed right, Cole said. Something in Kate's posture dropped about half an inch, the particular relief of a guest that lands. She climbed onto the stool on Harper's other side, put her own takeout cup down, looked at her daughter. Hey, she said. Harper held up 2 fingers. Plus extra credit. Kate closed her eyes for exactly 1 second. The expression on her face was not one Cole had a name for. It was too complex for one thing. Too layered. Pride, relief, love. The particular brand of exhaustion that only parents carry. That's my kid, she said softly. I included the orca section, Harper told her. I know you did, bug. Cole put his hands around the takeout cup, drank from it. It was good coffee, better than Miller's, though he would never say that to Ruth in this lifetime or any subsequent one. He sat there between a woman who hadn't planned to come inside and a girl who had planned everything and the strangeness of it. Cole Thatcher sitting in a diner with a mother and her daughter, like it was the most natural arrangement in the world, did not escape him. He just let it be strange. He was learning slowly that strange was not the same as wrong. Cole? Kate said after a moment. The tone of it made him turn. She was looking at her hands. Her thumbnail was picking at the plastic lid of her coffee cup. The police called me yesterday. Sergeant Dillard. Cole put his cup down. He told me about the photos, Kate said. Her voice was steady, controlled, working hard to be both. On the man's phone. Harper had gone still beside them. The way kids go still when the adults are about to say something they're trying to decide about. Cole glanced at her. Her eyes were on her mother, clear, waiting. He told me Harper isn't in any of them, Kate continued. But other girls are. She stopped, swallowed. He said that without what happened last Tuesday, without the ID and the witness in Harper's testimony, she stopped again. He said they might not have had enough, that he might have. She couldn't finish it. Cole said nothing. He let her have the silence. 3 other families got calls this weekend, Kate said, because of what happened here, in this diner. She looked up. Her eyes were dry, but barely. 3 families who are going to be able to, she stopped, who don't have to wonder anymore. Cole looked at her. I needed to say that to you, Kate said, in person, not in a text message, in person. He held her gaze. He didn't look away, didn't deflect. Harper made the call, he said. She chose right. She chose you, Kate said. There's a difference. The diner noise moved around them. The old men at the window table burst into laughter about something. Ruth was refilling coffee down the counter, maintaining the dignified fiction that she was not paying any attention to what was happening at her favorite stools. Harper had picked up her hot chocolate and was drinking it with both hands, watching the 2 adults over the rim of her mug with the focused serenity of someone who is exactly where they expected to be. Then Cole's phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it. Brick. He silenced it. It buzzed again. He looked at the screen. Not a call this time. A text. 2 words and a news link. Cole picked up the phone, read the 2 words. His jaw tightened. Kate saw his face change. What? She said. He turned the phone so she could see the text first. 2 words from Brick, check this. Then he opened the link. It was a local news site. The headline took about 1 second to read and another 3 for his brain to process what it meant. Knoxville biker praised for role in child predator arrest, national coverage picks up story. Below the headline, a photograph. Not of Cole, they hadn't gotten one of him, but of the diner, of Miller's from the outside, the front window and the sign in the awning. Below that, a quote from Dillard's press release. And below that, a quote from a source described only as a diner regular, who had apparently told the interviewer that the big biker guy just sat there calm as anything, bought her a hot chocolate, and didn't let her out of his sight. Cole read it once, set the phone down. Kate read it, set it down, looked at him. National coverage, she said. "Oh, apparently," Cole said. "How do you feel about that?" Cole picked up his coffee. "I feel like I want another cup of this," he said. Harper had leaned over and was reading the phone screen with the unceremonious directness of a child who doesn't recognize that some things are private. "You're famous," she told Cole. "I'm not famous," he said. "There's a picture of the diner. That's the diner's fame, not mine." Harper considered this distinction, decided she didn't fully accept it, but was willing to table the debate. "Can I get a cookie?" she asked. "Yes," said Cole and Kate at exactly the same moment. They looked at each other. Kate almost laughed. Cole almost did too. Ruth appeared with a snickerdoodle without being asked. She set it in front of Harper, looked at Cole, said very quietly so only the three of them could hear. "The table by the window. The old guys, they all know. Somebody showed them the article on their phone 20 minutes ago." She paused. "They asked me to tell you the coffee's on them today." Cole looked at the table of old men. One of them thick-necked 70, if he was a day, the kind of face that had spent most of its life outdoors, caught Cole's eye and gave him a single slow nod, the kind of nod that doesn't need anything attached to it. Cole looked back at his coffee cup. Something in his throat did something inconvenient that he addressed by drinking. His phone buzzed again. He looked. Not Brick this time. An unknown number. 865 area code. Local. He let it go. It buzzed again 10 seconds later. Then a third time, different number. "It's starting," he said to no one in particular. Kate looked at the phone. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing," Cole said. "I didn't do this for the phone calls." "I know that," Kate said, "but the phone calls are coming anyway." He looked at her. "I know how to not answer a phone." She nodded, then carefully, "There are people, families, people who advocate for child safety, who are going to want to talk to you, not because they want to make you famous, because—" She stopped, tried again. "Because what you did matters. And people who do work in this space, who fight to keep kids safe, they need stories that are real. That happened. That show what it looks like when someone does the right thing." She paused. "I work with the school. I've been involved with parent safety committees for 3 years. I know some people who—" "Kate," Cole said. She stopped. "One thing at a time," he said. She held his gaze, then nodded. "One thing at a time," she agreed. The weeks that followed moved differently than any weeks Cole had lived through in recent memory. Not faster, not slower, just differently. Like the road had changed its texture under him without changing its direction. He came back every Tuesday. That was the fixed point. Everything else rotated around it. The third Tuesday, Harper brought him a printed copy of her dolphin project. She'd stapled it neatly and written his name on a sticky note on the front cover in careful second-grade handwriting. "For Mr. Cole Thatcher, sir." Not just Cole, the full name, like it was an official document, like she was filing something with him for the record. Cole folded it and put it in the inner pocket of his leather vest next to where the chapter patch sat on the lining. Harper watched him do it with the expression of someone who has received exactly the response they were hoping for and is trying not to show it. "You're going to keep it?" she asked. "Already did," he said. She looked at her hot chocolate for a moment. Then she nodded once, sharp and small, and moved on to telling him about the science fair. Cole sat beside her and listened and drank his coffee and did not think about the fact that the folded pages against his ribs felt more like something worth carrying than most things he had carried in his life. Kate came in that day with less hesitation than the week before, and the week after that with even less. By the fourth Tuesday, she was ordering food and staying through lunch, and neither of them made any remark about this progression because making a remark about it would have been acknowledging something that both of them were still deciding how to hold. But things were moving. Cole was not a man who moved quickly toward things. He had spent too many years learning to be still, to wait, to take his time reading a situation before committing to it. But he was honest enough with himself, riding home on those Tuesday evenings with the cool October air, working through the seams of his jacket to admit that something was moving, that he was not entirely in control of the direction. Brick had said nothing more about it, which in Brick's language meant he had said everything he intended to say and was now waiting for Cole to catch up. Donnie had made one joke, exactly one, and Cole had given him a look that had ended the conversation without a single word being exchanged. The chapter collectively had landed on a posture of dignified silence on the subject, which Cole appreciated more than he could have articulated. The news cycle had moved on. The story had bloomed for about 5 days, local, then regional, then a mention on one national morning show that Cole had not watched and would not watch under any circumstances. And then something else happened somewhere else, and the cameras pointed that direction, and Knoxville went back to being Knoxville. Cole was glad for this. He had not wanted the attention, had not done it for the attention. What he had not anticipated was what happened without the cameras. The first letter arrived at the chapter house 3 weeks after the diner. Brick brought it to him on a Thursday, held it out without comment, face unreadable. Cole opened it. It was handwritten, 3 pages from a woman in Nashville whose daughter had been followed home from school 18 months ago. The incident had never been resolved. The man had never been caught. She had read about what happened in Knoxville, and she wrote to say that it mattered to her that someone like Cole, her words, someone who the world had already decided was dangerous, had been the one to protect a child. That it undid something in her idea of the world that she was glad to have undone. Cole read the letter twice, folded it, put it in his kitchen drawer. The second letter came to the diner addressed to Miller's Diner, attention the biker. Ruth handed it to him on a Tuesday with absolutely no expression on her face. It was from a grandfather in Chattanooga. 4 sentences. His granddaughter had been afraid of motorcycles her whole life. Now she wasn't. He thought Cole should know. By the 6th week, there were 11 letters. Cole had not responded to any of them. He didn't know how. He wasn't a man who wrote letters. He kept them all in the kitchen drawer and did not think about them when he could avoid it and thought about them constantly when he couldn't. It was on the 6th Tuesday that Harper said something that changed the temperature of everything. She had been talking about her friend at school, a girl named Mia, who had recently decided that bottlenose dolphins were inferior to great white sharks in every conceivable way, which Harper found professionally offensive. And then she went quiet in the middle of a sentence, which she almost never did. Cole noticed immediately. He set his coffee mug down. "What?" he said. Harper was turning her mug in her hands. She did that when she was thinking about something she wasn't sure how to say. Cole had learned to read it the way you learn to read weather. "The man," she said, "Vincent Howell. My mama said there's going to be a trial." Cole kept his voice even. "That's right. She said I might have to talk in court." She paused. "She said I didn't have to decide yet, but that it was a possibility." Cole was quiet. "I'm not scared," Harper said quickly. The quickness of it told him something. "You can be scared and still do it," he said. "Those aren't opposites." Harper looked at him. "You said that before, about fear." "It keeps being true," he said. She was quiet for a moment. "Would you come?" she asked. Her voice had dropped slightly, not to a whisper, but to that register that means something is being asked carefully. "If I had to go to the courthouse, would you come?" Cole looked at this girl, at the set of her jaw and the steadiness in her eyes and the tiny tremor in her hands that she was doing her absolute best to hide. He thought about what it cost her to ask. He thought about the 6 blocks she had walked alone counting footsteps. He thought about the way she had climbed onto a stool next to the most intimidating man in the room and asked for hot chocolate like she had earned the right to feel safe. "Yes," he said, flat, Immediate, no preamble. Harper exhaled. Something in her shoulders came down. "Okay," she said. "Okay," he said. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Harper said, "Cole, yeah, I told Mia about you." He looked at her. "What did you tell her?" "That you're my friend," she said simply. "She said bikers are scary. I said she was wrong." A pause. "I said you were the not scary kind of big." Cole looked at his coffee mug for a long moment. His jaw worked once. "What did she say?" "She said she'd believe it when she met you," Harper said. "I told her maybe someday." Cole said nothing. He picked up his coffee, drank. "Is that okay?" Harper asked. "That I said that? That you're my friend?" He set the mug down, looked at her directly. "Yeah," he said. "That's okay." And the word friend, which Cole Thatcher had used for a specific and limited set of people over the course of his 40 years, people he'd bled, next to people he'd ridden thousands of miles with people who knew where all the real things were buried, landed differently when it came back from a 6-year-old who had decided it was simply true. Kate arrived 20 minutes later, slightly out of breath, a stack of folders under one arm. She taught a parent information session on Tuesdays now, just before lunch, which meant she came in later and left later, and the three of them had started occupying the diner well into the early afternoon. Ruth had never once complained about this and had begun accommodating it with unrequested pie refills. Kate dropped the folders on the counter, sat down, looked at Cole, and immediately said, "What happened?" He looked at her. "Nothing happened." "Something happened. Your face is different." Harper helpfully supplied, "I asked him to come to court." Kate looked at her daughter, then at Cole. "I was going to talk to you about that," she said, "properly, when Harper wasn't." "It's okay," Cole said. "She asked. I said yes." Kate held his gaze for a moment. Something moved across her face. Complex, layered, the same thing from before that he still didn't have a single name for. "You're sure?" she said. "I said yes," he said. "I mean it." Kate looked at her folders, looked at her coffee when Ruth set it down, looked at her hands. "Cole," she said, and her voice was doing the thing it did when she was being careful. "There are people, the advocates I mentioned before, the ones working on child safety legislation. They've reached out again after the story." She paused. "They want to do a roundtable. Parents, law enforcement, community members. They asked if you'd be willing to speak." Cole felt the familiar resistance rise in him. The wall going up. He'd felt it before. Every time someone had asked him to be more than what he'd been in that diner on that Tuesday. He wasn't a spokesman. He wasn't an advocate. He was a biker who'd bought a scared kid a hot chocolate. There was no lesson in that. There was no curriculum. "I'm not a speaker," he said. "I know," Kate said. "But you're someone who was there, and sometimes that's the only thing that matters." She paused. "You wouldn't have to say much. Just tell what happened." "I already told it," he said, "to Dillard, to Owen, to the DA's office." "Those were fact," Kate said. "I'm talking about what it felt like." She looked at him steadily. "Because there are people, fathers, men who think that kind of thing is someone else's job, someone else's problem, who will not listen to a statistic. They will not listen to a police report, but they will listen to you because you look like them, because you're not a social worker or a politician or a person with a pamphlet." She stopped. "You're just a man who did the right thing, and that is somehow the rarest and most persuasive thing in the world." Cole sat with that. The diner moved around them. The old men at the window table there every Tuesday now, like they'd made their own appointment, were arguing about football. The cook had won his ongoing debate with the dishwasher, evidently based on the victory posture coming through the kitchen window. Ruth was somewhere at the back humming something almost inaudible, which she only did when the diner was running smooth. One time, Cole said. Kate blinked. "What?" "I'll speak once," he said. "I'm not making a career out of it. I'll go once. I'll say what happened. And then I'm done. Kate looked at him. Her expression was doing something complicated, and she was working to keep it simple. Once is enough, she said quietly. Good, he said. All right. Harper, who had been eating her snickerdoodle with the focused patience of someone who has been waiting for the adults to finish, looked up. Can I come? No, said Cole and Kate together. Harper sighed. I literally started the whole thing, she muttered. You absolutely did, Cole said. And you're not coming. Fine, she said, but the corner of her mouth moved, and Cole's almost did too. 3 weeks later, Cole Thatcher walked into a meeting room at the Knoxville Public Library, a fact that would have been 6 months ago roughly as likely as him walking on the moon, and sat in a chair at a round table with 6 other people. Deputy Owen Lancaster, a child psychologist named Dr. Nina Torres, a woman from the state attorney general's office, 2 fathers from the school district, and Kate, who was there in her capacity as school safety committee chair, and who had positioned herself directly across the table from him, which he suspected was strategic. Cole had thought about wearing his vest, thought about it for 10 minutes that morning, and then put it on anyway. He was who he was. He wasn't dressing for anyone else. Nobody said anything about the vest. When it was his turn to speak, he didn't have notes, didn't have a speech. He had 11 letters in a kitchen drawer and a folded dolphin project in the inside pocket of his jacket, and a standing Tuesday appointment, and a specific piece of knowledge about the largest member of the dolphin family. He figured that was enough. He told what happened. Flat. Factual. The bell above the door. The footsteps. The arms around his leg. The napkin dispenser. The 2 words she'd said into his ribs when she left. Tuesday. That was all. He said that last part, just the word, just what it meant, and the room was quiet for longer than rooms usually stay quiet. One of the fathers, a man about Cole's age with a wedding ring and the look of someone who coached Little League and drove a sensible sedan, said, "Why do you think she came to you?" Cole looked at him, thought about Brick, thought about what Brick had said about fearless looking, dangerous. Because she was smart enough to read past the surface, he said, and because I didn't move away from her. That's all it was. I didn't move. The man nodded slowly, wrote something on the paper in front of him, then looked up. You're going to keep coming back to the diner. Every Tuesday, Cole said. The man looked at him for a long moment. Then he put his pen down and said, I've been telling my daughter for 2 years not to talk to strangers. He stopped. I don't know what I'm telling her now. Cole thought about that. Tell her to read them, he said. Not all strangers are the same. She knows that already. Kids know that. We just talk it out of them. The room was quiet again. Kate was looking at her hands. Owen was looking at Cole. Dr. Torres was writing something, writing it fast. Cole sat back in his chair. He was done. He had said what he came to say. He wasn't going to dress it up. After the meeting in the parking lot, Kate stood beside him. The October air had gone sharp. Their breath showed faintly. That was, Kate started. Don't, Cole said. I wasn't going to say anything flowery, Kate said. I was going to say it was real. That's all. He looked at her. Okay, he said. She turned her keys in her hand. He'd noticed she did that when she was deciding something. Harper asked me something last night, she said. She asked if you were going to be around for a long time. Cole felt something in his chest tighten. The good kind of tighten. The kind that means something matters. What did you tell her? I told her I didn't know, Kate said. She stopped, pressed her lips together. And she said, I think he will be. He said Tuesday, and he meant it. Cole looked at the parking lot, at nothing in particular. Did she get that right? Kate asked. Her voice was quiet and direct and completely without drama, which was he had learned exactly how she asked the things that mattered most. He turned and looked at her, at this woman with the cardigan button wrong sometimes, and the firm handshake, and the absolute unbreakable devotion to a team of 2 that had, over the past 6 weeks, quietly and without announcement, made room for one more. She got it right, Cole said. Kate held his gaze, nodded once. Good, she said. And there it was, that one word again. Solid. Final. The word both of them had learned from a 6-year-old who understood with the uncomplicated clarity of someone not yet old enough to doubt themselves that some things are simply true and do not require more than one syllable to confirm. Cole rode home that evening as the sun dropped behind the ridge and the sky went the color of a fading bruise amber and rose and that particular deep blue that comes in just ahead of dark. He took the long route, not because he was avoiding anything, because he wanted to feel it. The road, the air, the engine, all of it, with whatever new configuration of himself he was riding home in. He thought about a Tuesday in September when he had walked into a diner for a cup of coffee and a break from the noise, and a little girl had wrapped her arms around his leg and held on like her life depended on it. He thought about what he had been before that and what he was now, and whether those two things were as different as they felt. He thought about 11 letters in a kitchen drawer, about a dolphin project in his inside pocket, about a man in the back of a patrol car with his head down who would stand trial soon and who would not walk away from it, about 3 other families who had gotten phone calls, about a little girl who had counted footsteps on a sidewalk and then climbed onto a stool and asked for hot chocolate with marshmallows and decided with total and unerring conviction that Cole Thatcher was the right person, that he was enough. Cole Thatcher, who had spent 17 years making sure people kept their distance. Cole Thatcher, who had built his life around the proposition that walls were safer than doors. Cole Thatcher, who had been wrong about that, as it turned out. Wrong in the specific way that only becomes visible when someone small enough to walk right under your defenses reaches up and takes your hand and shows you what was on the other side of them the whole time. He rode home. He parked. He sat on the bike for a moment in the dark with the engine cooling under him, ticking quietly, the sound of it, like a language he had known his whole life. He was going back Tuesday. He already knew that. It was not a decision he was making in this moment. It had been made in a diner 6 weeks ago by a 6-year-old girl with a navy backpack and stars on her sneakers who had looked up at him with the whole of her fear and made a choice that he intended to spend a very long time being worthy of. Some men spend their whole lives looking for the moment that defines them. Cole Thatcher had not been looking. He had been sitting at a lunch counter with his coffee, minding his own business, when it walked in and grabbed his leg. And he had not moved away. That was all. That was everything. December in Knoxville comes with a particular kind of cold that settles into your bones and stays there. The kind that makes coffee taste better and makes people walk a little faster between their cars and wherever they're going. Harper Elizabeth Reed turned 7 on November 15th. Kate threw a small party at their house with 6 kids from school and a cake shaped like a dolphin that Harper declared was scientifically inaccurate, but appreciated anyway. Cole didn't go to the party. He wasn't invited, and that was fine. Birthday parties were for kids and families, and he was neither. But the Tuesday after, Harper brought him a piece of cake wrapped in foil and a photo of the dolphin cake that she'd taken specifically to show him the inaccuracies. The dorsal fin is too tall, she said, pointing, and the flippers are at the wrong angle. Terrible, Cole said seriously, but it tasted good, Harper allowed. She was 7 now. Something about that felt significant to Cole, though he couldn't have said exactly why. Maybe it was just that 6 had seemed impossibly young for everything she'd been through. 7 felt slightly more proportional to her competence, though she was still small. Still had that same ponytail that gave up on itself by noon. Still climbed onto the stool next to his every Tuesday with the same determined dignity. Some things didn't change. The letter that came in late November changed things. It was from the district attorney's office. Formal, official, addressed to Harper Elizabeth Reed, care of Kate Preston Reed. Kate opened it at the kitchen table while Harper was at school. Read it twice, called her sister, called her school principal, called Cole. They've set a trial date, she said when he picked up. Her voice was steady, but Cole could hear the thing underneath it, the thing she was working very hard to keep contained. When, he asked, December 16th, Monday. Cole was quiet. They want Harper to testify, Kate said. They're not requiring it. The prosecutor said they have enough without her if we decide it's too much. But she stopped. But it would help, Cole finished. It would help, Kate confirmed. Another silence. Has she decided? Cole asked. I haven't told her yet, Kate said. I wanted to, I needed to talk to you first. Because if she says yes, she's going to ask if you'll be there. And I need to know if I'll be there, Cole said. Kate was quiet for a long moment. You didn't let me finish. Didn't need to, Cole said. I told her I'd come. I meant it. He could hear Kate breathing on the other end of the line. Okay, she said finally. Okay, I'll tell her tonight. That evening, Kate sat Harper down at the kitchen table. Made hot chocolate even though it wasn't cold enough for hot chocolate yet. Put extra marshmallows in it, which Harper immediately recognized as a sign that something serious was coming. Baby, Kate said, we need to talk about the trial. Harper set her mug down, looked at her mother with those dark, serious eyes. When is it? December 16th, 3 weeks from now. Harper absorbed that, nodded once. The prosecutor, the lawyer who's trying to make sure Mr. Howell gets punished, she wants to know if you'd be willing to talk to the judge, to tell what happened in that day. Kate paused. You don't have to. They have other evidence. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Harper was quiet for a long time. She picked up her spoon, pushed the marshmallows around in her mug. Will he be there? She asked. Mr. Howell. Kate's hand tightened on her own mug. Yes, she said. He'll be there, but he can't hurt you. He'll be far away, and there will be police there, and he can't get near you. Harper nodded slowly. Will you be there? Every second, Kate said. Will Cole be there? Kate felt something in her chest shift. He said he would be. Harper looked up. You already asked him. He offered, Kate said, before I even asked. Harper turned this over in her mind, processing. I'll do it, she said. Kate blinked. You're sure you can think about it? You don't have to decide right now. I'm sure, Harper said. Her voice was steady, clear. The other girls need to know he can't scare us anymore. Kate looked at her daughter and felt not for the first time like she was raising someone far older than 7. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, baby. The next Tuesday, Harper told Cole herself. She didn't mention it right away. She talked about school first, about the science fair project she was starting with Mia about ocean acidification, about how her teacher, Mrs. Brennan, had said Harper was reading at a 4th grade level and could move up to the advanced reading group. Kate listened from the stool on Harper's other side, drinking her coffee, letting Harper build up to it in her own time. Finally, halfway through her hot chocolate, Harper said, There's going to be a trial. I have to talk about what happened. Cole set his coffee mug down. You scared? Harper thought about it, really thought about it. Yes, she said, but Mama says being scared and doing it anyway is called courage. Your mama's right, Cole said. I'd feel braver if you were there, Harper said. Cole looked at her. I'll be there. Harper exhaled. Something in her shoulders relaxed. Thank you, she said, then quieter, Cole. Yeah. What if I mess up? What if I forget something important? Cole was quiet for a moment. You won't forget, he said. Your brain remembers important things. But even if you did forget something that wouldn't make what you're doing less brave, brave isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up even when you're scared. Harper looked at him, then nodded. Okay, she said. She went back to her hot chocolate. The subject was closed. Decision made. Kate caught Cole's eye across Harper's head. Mouthed, thank you. Cole gave the smallest nod. The 3 weeks between that Tuesday and December 16th moved in the way that time moves when you're waiting for something difficult. Slowly and then suddenly. Each day distinct and then all of them blurring together. Harper had 4 sessions with Dr. Nina Torres, the child psychologist the DA's office had assigned. They met in a comfortable office with soft chairs and toys that were clearly meant to put children at ease, but which Harper mostly ignored. Dr. Torres was good at her job. She explained the courtroom, drew diagrams, used dolls to show where everyone would sit. "You'll be up here," Dr. Torres said, pointing to the witness stand on her diagram, "in a special chair so everyone can see you. The judge will be here. Your mama will be right there in the front row where you can see her. And Mr. Howell will be over here at this table with his lawyer." Harper studied the diagram. "How far away is over here?" Dr. Torres measured with her hands. "About 20 feet. As far as from this wall to that wall." Harper looked at the distance, nodded. "And Cole will be there too." Dr. Torres glanced at Kate, who nodded. "Mr. Thatcher will be there," Dr. Torres confirmed. "He'll be sitting with your mama." "Okay," Harper said. They practiced. Kate played the prosecutor. Cole, at Harper's request, played the defense attorney. They sat at the kitchen table, Harper in the middle, Kate with a notepad, Cole with his coffee. "Harper," Kate said in her prosecutor voice, "can you tell me what happened on September 12th? Harper recited the events, the bus stop, the 6 blocks, the traffic light test, Miller's Diner. She didn't hesitate, didn't stumble. Her voice stayed steady. Then Cole, in his role as defense attorney, said gently, "Harper, you said the man was following you, but how do you know he wasn't just walking in the same direction?" Harper looked at him. "Because I tested him," she said. "I stopped at a green light. He stopped. I walked, he walked. That's not coincidence, that's following." Cole nodded, stayed in character. "But you were scared. Could you have been imagining things?" "No, sir," Harper said. "I was scared because I wasn't imagining things. I was scared because I was right." Kate had to look away for a moment, press her hand to her mouth. Cole broke character. "That was good," he said to Harper. "That was really good." Harper took a sip of the apple juice she was using as a stand-in for hot chocolate. "Can we do it again?" she asked. They did it 3 more times that evening. The night before the trial, Harper couldn't sleep. Kate found her at 11:30, sitting at the kitchen table in her pajamas, drawing pictures of dolphins. "Can't sleep either, huh?" Kate said. Harper shook her head. Kate made tea, sat down across from her daughter. "You want to talk about it?" Harper kept drawing. "What if my voice shakes?" "Then your voice shakes," Kate said. "Brave people have shaky voices too." "What if I cry?" "Then you cry. The judge will understand." Harper set her crayon down, looked at her mother. "Cole said fear is smart, that it keeps you moving." "Cole's right about a lot of things," Kate said. Harper picked up a blue crayon, started coloring in the ocean. "Mama?" "Yeah, Bug. After tomorrow, will I have to think about Mr. Howell anymore?" Kate felt her throat tighten. "Not as much," she said carefully. "It might take a while, but it gets easier." Harper nodded, kept coloring. "Mama, yeah, I'm glad Cole's coming." "Me too, baby," Kate said. "Me too." December 16th came cold and clear. Kate dressed Harper in a navy blue dress that matched her backpack. Harper insisted on wearing her Converse with the stars, even though Kate had bought her nice shoes for the occasion. "These are my lucky shoes," Harper said. Kate didn't argue. They arrived at the Knox County Courthouse at 8:30. The trial wasn't until 9, but the prosecutor ADA, Jennifer Park, wanted to meet with Harper first. Cole was already there when they arrived. He was standing outside the courthouse steps, and Harper saw him before he saw them. She grabbed Kate's hand. "He came," she said. "Of course he came," Kate said. Cole turned as they approached. He was wearing his vest. Kate had wondered if he had half expected him to dress differently for court. But no, he was who he was. "Morning," he said. "Morning," Kate replied. Harper walked straight to him and took his hand. Just like that. No hesitation. Cole looked down at her small hand in his large one. Then he closed his fingers around it. "You ready?" he asked. "No," Harper said honestly, "but I'm doing it anyway." "That's all anyone can ask," Cole said. They went inside. The courthouse was all marble and echo. Their footsteps sounded too loud. Harper held Cole's hand tighter. Ada Jennifer Park met them in a conference room on the second floor. She was in her mid-30s, sharp-eyed with dark hair pulled back in a burgundy suit that looked both professional and somehow warm. "Harper," she said, kneeling down to Harper's level. "I'm Jennifer. We've talked on the phone, remember?" Harper nodded. "You doing okay?" "I am scared," Harper said. "That's okay," Jennifer said. "I'm a little scared too. This is a big deal, but you're going to do great." She looked at Kate and Cole. "We're going to go in around 9:15. Harper will be the first witness. I'll ask her questions she'll answer. Then the defense attorney, Mr. Marcus Webb, will ask questions. The judge might ask a few questions too." She looked back at Harper. "All you have to do is tell the truth. If you don't understand a question, say so. If you need a break, say so. Okay." Harper nodded. "Can I ask something?" she said. "Of course, Riaz." "Will Mr. Howell look at me?" Jennifer's expression softened. "He might, but you don't have to look at him. You can look at me or at your mama or at the judge, wherever feels safest." Harper absorbed this. "Okay," she said. At 9:15, they entered the courtroom. It was smaller than Harper had imagined. She'd seen courtrooms on TV, and they always seemed enormous. This one felt almost ordinary. Wood paneling, rows of benches, the judge's bench at the front elevated, and there at a table on the left, Vincent Howell. Harper saw him and stopped walking. He looked smaller than she remembered. Ordinary. He was wearing a gray suit, and his hands were folded on the table in front of him. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at his hands. Cole felt Harper's hand tighten in his. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Harper nodded, didn't speak. Kate guided them to the front row on the right side. Cole sat down first, then Kate, Harper between them. The bailiff called the court to order. Everyone stood. Judge Sarah Morrison entered. She was older, maybe 65, with gray hair and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She had the face of someone's grandmother. Harper found that comforting. "Please be seated," Judge Morrison said. Everyone sat. The prosecutor stood. "The state calls Harper Elizabeth Reed." Harper felt everything inside her go cold and sharp. Kate squeezed her hand. "You've got this, baby." Cole leaned down slightly. "Remember what we practiced." Harper stood. She walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like they were made of something other than bone and muscle. The bailiff helped her onto the chair. It was too big. They had a booster cushion. It helped a little. Harper could see the whole courtroom from here. Could see Kate in the front row, hands clasped tight. Could see Cole beside her watching Harper with that same steady attention he had given her in the diner. Could see Vincent Howell at the defense table, still not looking at her. The bailiff held out a Bible. "Do you promise to tell the truth? The whole truth and nothing but the truth?" "I do," Harper said. Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. Judge Morrison smiled at her. "Harper, I'm Judge Morrison. You can call me Judge or Your Honor, whichever is easier. Are you comfortable?" "Yes, Your Honor," Harper said. "Good. If you need a break at any time, you just let me know." "Okay." "Okay." Jennifer Park approached. "Harper, do you remember Tuesday, September 12th of this year?" "Yes, ma'am." "Can you tell us what happened that day?" Harper took a breath, and then she told them. She told them about the bus stop, about seeing the man in the gray jacket across the street, about seeing him again after school. She told them about the 6 blocks, about counting her steps so she wouldn't panic. "My mama taught me that," Harper said. "When you're scared, count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. It gives your brain something to do besides be afraid." Jennifer nodded. "That's very smart. What happened as you were walking?" "He got closer," Harper said. "Every block he was closer. And I knew." "You knew what?" "That he was following me, not just walking the same way." Following. "How did you know that?" Harper looked at Jennifer, then at the jury, Then back at Jennifer. I tested him, she said. A murmur went through the courtroom. You tested him, Jennifer repeated. How? I stopped at a crosswalk even though the light was green, Harper said. Nobody does that. There was no reason to stop. But I stopped. And what did he do? He stopped too, Harper said, in the middle of the street, just like me. Her voice was getting stronger now, more certain. That's when I knew for sure, because that's not what people do. That's what someone does when they're copying your movements, when they're tracking you. Jennifer paused. Let that land. What did you do then? I kept walking. I tried to go faster, but I didn't run because running makes predators chase. That's what happens in nature documentaries. Another murmur. Someone in the jury box smiled slightly. I saw Miller's Diner, Harper continued. The sign said everyone welcome, and I thought that meant me too. So I went in. What happened when you went inside? I looked around, Harper said. There were people there. A couple arguing, two old ladies eating pierre, a waitress, and a man at the counter. She paused. Mr. Cole Thatcher. Why did you go to Mr. Thatcher? Harper thought about this, really thought about it. Because he was by himself, she said, and I didn't want to bring danger to a family. And because he looked steady, like a wall that wouldn't fall down. Jennifer's voice was gentle. What did you do? I went to him and I put my arms around his leg and I said, don't let go of me, please. Don't let go. Harper's voice wavered slightly on that last part. And what did Mr. Thatcher do? He didn't let go, Harper said simply. Jennifer nodded. Harper, do you see the man who followed you in this courtroom today? Harper's hands gripped the arms of the chair. She looked at Vincent Howell. He was looking at her now, directly at her. Harper didn't look away. Yes, ma'am, she said. That's him, Mr. Vincent Howell, sitting at that table in the gray suit. Thank you, Harper, Jennifer said. No further questions, Your Honor. She sat down. The defense attorney, Marcus Webb, stood. He was younger than Harper expected, maybe 40. He had kind eyes which Harper found confusing. Harper, he said gently, I'm Mr. Webb. I'm Mr. Howell's lawyer. That means I'm going to ask you some questions too. Okay. Harper nodded. You said you were scared that day, is that right? Yes, sir. And when people are scared, they imagine things. Is that fair to say? Harper looked at him steadily. I wasn't imagining things, sir. But you were scared. You said so yourself. I was scared because I wasn't imagining things, Harper said. I was scared because I was right. Webb paused, adjusted his approach. You said you tested Mr. Howell by stopping at the crosswalk. But isn't it possible he just happened to stop at the same time? Maybe he saw a car coming. There were no cars close enough to stop for, Harper said. I checked, and he didn't stop at the crosswalk. He stopped in the middle of the street. That's not what you do if you're worried about cars. Webb flipped through his notes. Harper, you seem very composed, very certain about what happened. I am certain, Harper said, but you're only 7 years old. I was 6 when it happened, Harper corrected. I turned 7 in November. Right, you were 6. And 6-year-olds can misunderstand situations, can see things that aren't really there when they're frightened. Harper's jaw tightened. Mr. Webb, she said, and her voice had an edge to it that made several people in the courtroom sit up straighter. I counted 6 blocks. I tested him at the crosswalk. I watched him in the reflection of the diner window after I got inside. I observed, I tested, I concluded. That's called the scientific method. We learned it in first grade. Someone in the jury box actually smiled. Webb tried again. Did Mr. Thatcher tell you what to say today? Harper looked at him like he'd just said something incredibly stupid. No, sir. I told him what happened. He listened. There's a difference. Kate pressed her hand to her mouth. Cole's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Webb consulted his notes again. Harper, you seem very articulate, Very precise. Are you sure you're remembering what actually happened and not what people have told you happened? Harper looked at Webb for a long moment. Then she looked at Vincent Howell, really looked at him. Mr. Howell, she said, addressing him directly. The courtroom went completely silent. You made me scared. You followed me for 6 blocks. You made me run. You made me think you were going to hurt me. Her voice didn't shake. But I'm not running anymore, and you can't scare me from over there. She turned back to Webb. I'm remembering what happened because it happened to me. Nobody told me. I lived it. Webb looked at his notes, then at the judge. No further questions, he said quietly. Judge Morrison looked at Harper with something that might have been respect. Harper, you've been very brave today. Thank you. You may step down. Harper climbed down from the chair. The bailiff helped her. She walked back to the front row. Kate pulled her into her arms the moment she was close enough. Cole put his hand on Harper's back. You did good, he said quietly. Harper pressed her face into Kate's shoulder and finally let herself shake. The trial continued without her. Deputy Owen Lancaster testified. Described the arrest, the phone with 47 photos, the prior complaints. Detective Maria Castellano testified, presented the evidence, the timeline, the pattern. The forensic technician who'd analyzed Howell's phone testified, described the search history, the locations of the photos, the metadata. It took 4 hours. At 2:30 in the afternoon, the jury was dismissed to deliberate. Kate, Cole, and Harper went to the cafeteria in the courthouse basement. Harper had a grilled cheese. Kate had coffee she didn't drink. Cole had coffee he did. How long does it take? Harper asked. However long it takes, Kate said. Could be an hour, could be longer. Harper ate her grilled cheese in small, methodical bites. Cole, she said. Yeah. Thank you for coming. You already thanked me, he said. I know, but I mean it more now. Cole looked at this 7-year-old girl who had just testified in a criminal trial with more composure than most adults could manage. You're welcome, he said. At 3:45, they were called back to the courtroom. The jury had reached a verdict. 90 minutes. That was all it had taken. They filed back into the courtroom. Same seats. Harper between Kate and Cole again. Vincent Howell stood as the jury filed in. His lawyer stood beside him. The foreman, a man in his 60s with gray hair, held a piece of paper. Judge Morrison addressed him. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have your honor. On the charge of stalking a minor, how do you find guilty? Harper felt Kate's hand tighten on hers. On the charge of attempted kidnapping, how do you find guilty? On the charge of possession of child sexual abuse material, how do you find guilty? Vincent Howell's shoulders dropped. He didn't look back at the courtroom, just stared straight ahead. Judge Morrison thanked the jury, set a sentencing date for January. But then she did something unusual. She looked at Vincent Howell. Mr. Howell, she said, you targeted children, you hunted them, you followed them, you photographed them. Her voice was steel. One of those children was braver than you will ever be. She walked 6 blocks while you followed her. She tested you to make sure she wasn't imagining things. She found help, she told her story, and she just looked you in the eye and told you she's not afraid anymore. Judge Morrison paused. At sentencing, I will be recommending the maximum penalty, 25 years, no parole eligibility for 15. She struck her gavel. We're adjourned. Outside the courthouse on the steps, Kate held Harper, while Harper finally cried. Not scared crying, not sad crying, just the release of everything she'd been holding for 3 months. Cole stood a few feet away, giving them space, watching the street. ADA. Jennifer Park came out, saw them stopped. Harper, she said, can I talk to you for a second? Harper wiped her eyes, nodded. Jennifer knelt down. What you did in there today was extraordinary. You know that, right? Harper shrugged. I just told the truth. You did more than that, Jennifer said. You stood up to someone who scared you. You didn't let him win. She paused. 3 other families got justice today because of you. I want you to know that. Harper absorbed this. They were scared too, she asked. They were, Jennifer said, but they don't have to be anymore. Because of you. Harper nodded slowly. A reporter approached. Excuse me, are you Harper Reed? Kate stood up, stepping between Harper and the reporter. We're not. Harper tugged on Kate's sleeve. It's okay, Mama, she said. Kate looked at her daughter. Harper looked at the reporter. Yes, I'm Harper Reed. Can I ask you a few questions about... I'll make a statement, Harper said, but then we're leaving. The reporter blinked, gestured to a cameraman. Okay, yes. The camera light came on. Harper stood on the courthouse steps, Kate beside her, Cole behind them. My name is Harper Elizabeth Reed, she said. I'm 7 years old. 3 months ago, a bad man followed me. I was really scared. Her voice was steady, but I found help. I found Mr. Cole Thatcher, and he kept me safe until the police came. She paused. If you're a kid and someone scares you, run, yell, find help. It's okay to be scared. It's not okay to stay quiet. She looked directly at the camera. And if you're a grown-up, look. Really look at the kids around you. Sometimes they're scared and you can't tell. Sometimes they need help and they don't know how to ask. She took a breath. Thank you to Mr. Thatcher for not looking away. Thank you to my mama for teaching me to be brave. And thank you to the other girls who were scared too. She looked at the reporter. We're not scared anymore. The reporter started to ask a follow-up question, but Cole stepped forward. She said what she came to say, he said quietly. Let her be a kid now. The reporter looked at Cole's size, at his vest, at his expression. Yes, sir, the reporter said. They walked to Kate's car. Harper was quiet in the back seat. You okay, Bug? Kate asked. Yeah, Harper said. I'm just tired. You want to go home? Harper thought about it. Can we go to Miller's? She asked. I want to see Ruth, and I want hot chocolate. Kate looked at Cole, who was following on his Harley. Miller's, she mouthed through the window. Cole nodded. They went to Miller's. It was 4:30 on a Monday. The diner was mostly empty. Ruth saw them come in and knew Barney immediately. It's over, she asked. It's over, Kate said. Ruth looked at Harper. Hot chocolate. Extra marshmallows, Harper said. Coming right up. They sat at the counter, their usual seats, Harper in the middle. Ruth brought hot chocolate, brought coffee for Cole and Kate, brought a slice of apple pie without being asked. On the house, she said. Harper ate her pie slowly. The exhaustion was setting in now. Her shoulders were slumping. Mama, she said. Yeah, Bug. Can I ask Cole something? Of course, yeah. Harper turned to Cole. Will you still be here on Tuesdays, even though the trial is over? Cole looked at her. You think I'd stop showing up? I don't know, Harper said. Sometimes people stop coming around when the scary thing is over. Cole set his coffee mug down. Harper, I said Tuesday. I meant Tuesday. That doesn't change just because the scary thing is done. Harper looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, she said. She went back to her pie. 6 months later, on a Tuesday in June, Harper turned 7.5. Kate brought a cupcake to Miller's with a candle in it. Ruth dimmed the lights. The regulars at the window table sang happy birthday, completely off key. Harper made a wish and blew out the candle. What did you wish for? Kate asked. Can't tell, Harper said. Then it won't come true. But she looked at Cole when she said it, and Cole had a pretty good idea what the wish had been. After the cupcake, after the singing, after the regulars had gone back to their argument about baseball, Cole reached into his vest pocket. Got something for you, he said. He pulled out a small box. Harper's eyes went wide. Inside was a child's motorcycle helmet, navy blue with silver dolphins airbrushed on the sides. Harper stared at it. Is this, can I? For sitting on the bike, Cole said. In the driveway, engine off, with your mama's permission. Harper looked at Kate with an expression of such desperate hope that Kate actually laughed. Just sitting, Kate asked Cole. Just sitting, Cole confirmed. Parked, not moving. Kate looked at her daughter, at this small, fierce, brave person who had walked through fire and come out the other side. Okay, she said. Harper actually squealed. Cole had never heard her make that sound before. After they finished at the diner, they walked out to the parking lot. Cole's Harley was there, parked in its usual spot. Harper put on the helmet. Cole lifted her onto the seat. She sat there, hands on the handlebars, grinning so wide her face must have hurt. Kate took a photo, then another, then three more. Cole stood next to the bike, one hand resting on the handlebar, the other steadying Harper's shoulder. Rule number 1, he said, never touch the engine parts when it's on. Rule number 2, Harper said, always respect the machine. Rule number 3, Cole asked. Harper looked at him. Only with you, she said, always only with you. Cole's hand tightened slightly on her shoulder. Yeah, he said quietly, always only with me. Kate looked at the two of them, the enormous man with the gray beard and the tattoos and the leather vest, and the small girl with the navy helmet and the Converse with stars, and felt something in her chest that she thought she might never feel again after her husband died. The feeling of family. Not the family she'd planned on, not the family she'd imagined, but family nonetheless. September came around again. 1 full year since the day Harper had walked 6 blocks and changed everything. They were at Miller's, Tuesday afternoon. The light coming through the windows had that particular golden quality that September light always has. Harper was doing homework, 2nd grade math, addition and subtraction with carrying. Kate was grading papers from her own class. Cole was reading a letter, number 89. This one from Phoenix, from a woman whose son had finally told his teacher about his father's abuse after hearing Harper's story on the news. They were safe now, the letter said, because Harper had shown her son that speaking up changes things. Cole folded the letter carefully, put it in his pocket. Cole, Harper said, not looking up from her math. Yeah. Do you remember the first time I came here? I remember. Do you remember what I said? Cole set down his coffee. You said, don't let go of me, please. Harper nodded, still working on her math problem. You didn't let go, she said. No, Cole said, I didn't. Harper finished the problem, moved on to the next one. I'm glad, she said. Kate looked up from her papers, looked at Cole. He met her eyes. Something passed between them. Something that had been building for a year. Something that neither of them had named yet, but that was there nonetheless. Harper finished her homework, closed her workbook. Can I have hot chocolate? She asked. You always have hot chocolate, Kate said. I know, but I like to ask anyway. Ruth brought the hot chocolate without being summoned. Extra marshmallows. The regulars at the window table were there. Same seats, same argument, probably. They'd been there every Tuesday for the past year. One of them, the thick-necked 70-year-old with the weathered face, caught Cole's eye and gave him that same slow nod. Every Tuesday, for a year, the same nod. Cole nodded back. Harper arranged her marshmallows in a pattern, then ate them one by one. Kate corrected papers and occasionally looked at her daughter and felt grateful in a way that made her throat tight. Cole drank his coffee and thought about how he'd walked into this diner 13 months ago just wanting a quiet hour and a cup of coffee, and instead had found something he hadn't known he needed. Purpose, connection, family. It hadn't been easy. There had been hard days. Days when Harper had nightmares. Days when Kate struggled with the fear that she'd let her daughter walk into danger. Days when Cole had to confront the fact that he was letting people in, letting them matter, letting them become part of the infrastructure of his life. But here they were, still showing up, still Tuesday. As the afternoon wore on and the light shifted from gold to amber, Harper looked up from her mug. Cole, she said. Yeah, Bug. Will you always be here on Tuesdays? Cole looked at her, at Kate, at the diner around them, at this life he'd stumbled into and somehow managed not to run from. As long as you keep showing up, he said. I'll keep showing up. Harper smiled. That's called a promise, she said. Yeah, Cole said. That's exactly what it's called. And outside through the windows of Miller's diner, the September sun continued its slow descent toward the horizon. Cars passed, people walked by. The city moved around them the way cities do. But inside at the counter, three people sat together in the comfortable silence of family. A 7-year-old girl who had learned that courage meant doing the scared thing anyway. A mother who had learned to let someone else help carry the weight. And a man who had spent 17 years building walls only to have them all come down the moment a small hand grabbed his leg and refused to let go. They sat there as the light faded, as Ruth refilled coffee, as the regulars argued and laughed and eventually paid their bill and left. And when it was time to go and Harper's homework was done and Kate's papers were graded and Cole's coffee was finished, they gathered their things and walked out together. Harper took Cole's hand on one side and Kate's on the other. Same time next week, she asked. Same time next week, Cole confirmed. They walked to their cars, Kate's sedan and Cole's Harley parked side by side. Harper hugged Cole around the waist, like she did every Tuesday. See you next week, Cole, she said into his vest. See you next week, Harper, he said. She climbed into Kate's car, buckled her seatbelt. Kate paused before getting in, looked at Cole over the roof of her car. Thank you, she said, for today, for every Tuesday. You don't have to thank me, Cole said. I know, Kate said, but I'm going to anyway. She smiled, got in the car, drove away. Cole watched them go. Then he climbed on his Harley, started the engine, and rode home. The road stretched out before him. The evening air was cool. The engine hummed beneath him. And Cole Thatcher, who had spent most of his life alone, realized that he wasn't alone anymore. He had a standing appointment every Tuesday. He had a 7-year-old girl who called him friend. He had a woman who looked at him like he was more than the sum of his scars. He had regulars at a diner who nodded at him in respect. He had 89 letters in his kitchen drawer from people he'd never met who considered him a hero. He had, against all odds and without meaning to, built something. A life, a family, a future. And it had all started with 6 words whispered into his vest on a Tuesday afternoon. Don't let go of me, please. He hadn't let go, and he never would. People ask Harper now, years later, what she remembers most about that day. Not the fear, she says, not the running. She remembers 6 words, don't let go of me, please. And she remembers that he didn't. That when she was small and scared and had nowhere else to go, she chose a stranger who looked dangerous and found out he was the safest person in the room. That when she needed someone to be steady, he was a wall that didn't fall down. That when she said Tuesday, he said Tuesday back and meant it. And she remembers that sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one you expect. Sometimes it's the big man with the beard and the tattoos sitting alone at a diner counter drinking coffee and minding his own business. Sometimes it's the one everyone else is afraid of. Sometimes it's the last person you'd expect. And sometimes, if you are very lucky and very brave and you trust your instincts even when you're terrified, that person becomes family. One Tuesday at a time,